Hi, everybody, and welcome back for week number 4 of Introduction to Sports Medicine. This is Dr. Hardy's coming to you again to give you your brief overview for this week. All right, this week we are talking about sports nutrition and supplements. So that's chapter 5 in the Prentice textbook. So make sure you read through that chapter. As always, I have the PowerPoint linked here below for you to go through and review that. But I want to give you just a couple of highlights here. First of all, our discussion this week is going to be on what's the importance of a good diet, of good nutrition, and how that affects athletes. And I know a lot of you in this class are athletes yourself, so I'm really looking forward to not only the textbook answer out of something like that, but you as an athlete. How does good nutrition affect you? Really looking forward to hearing some of those things coming from you all. Big things I want to mention when we talk about nutrition in sports medicine. So there are some big factors that really are things that I want you to take away from this. First of all is there's a lot of information about nutrition out there. There are some very basics that we cover in this 1 week we're covering this. I can tell you I've taken multiple classes on nutrition, like semester-long classes that are just focused on this nutrition stuff. So this is a very, very tiny piece of the puzzle. So you're just getting the big, broad overviews. So big, broad overviews when we're talking about nutrition is when we talk about the things you're putting into your body, there are macronutrients and there are micronutrients. Those macronutrients, there's 3 big things: proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Those are the 3 macronutrients. Everything else is going to be micronutrients, smaller things than those 3 big building blocks that you need for energy. Now, when we are talking about nutritional intake, those 3 things are important. Now, I know there have been a lot of fad diets over the years. I've seen these myself in different ways, shapes, and forms, where, you go back to, say, the 1970s and 1980s, and everything was about cutting out fats. Let's get rid of those fats. Then there are other things, getting into the early 2000s, especially to a lesser degree, still hanging around now with some of these fad diets that are cutting out carbohydrates. Generally, you don't see people wanting to cut out proteins. But here's the truth I'm going to tell you. Those 3 macronutrients, all 3 are important to your body. And if you severely limit any one of those 3 macronutrients, you're going to lose weight doing that. It's going to be effective in losing weight. Here's the problem by doing that is you're not getting all those macronutrients that are important for your body to function the way it normally should. Carbohydrates are especially important for running your brain and your central nervous system. You need those things in there. Proteins are essentially important for muscle. Plus, they make you feel full longer, and so you feel better when you're eating more proteins. Fats. You need fats for your internal organs to function at their highest. You need that dietary fat. We're not talking about the fat that, adipose tissue that comes onto your body, but those fats that are in foods, those macronutrients that are fat that are there to help support your body in functioning the way it should. So I want you to realize that there are those 3 big macronutrients. All 3 are important for running your body successfully. Now, I am no nutritionist. I'm not going to try to give you any nutritional advice when it comes to how do you balance these things, but I can tell you that there is a lot more science that has gone on in this area over the last 15, 20 years, where now people are starting to say, hey, what are my macronutrient balances? How do I keep this in good spaces? And so that's absolutely an area where there's been huge strides forward. And if you're more interested in that, I would definitely recommend look into more information, look for reputable sources. If you can find an actual nutritionist, registered dietitian, somebody that can give you good, solid, science-based advice, by all means. Be skeptical when it comes to finding stuff on the internet, finding stuff through social media where people are pushing one of those fad diets, whatever it may be. I'm just asking you to look to scientific sources when you're learning that stuff. Now, when we are talking about the basic math of nutrition when it comes to sports, excuse me, when it comes to sports medicine, there's a couple of numbers I want you to take away from this. The first one is 3,500 calories, 3,500 calories. That is the number of kilocalories that makes up 1 pound of body tissue. That's really important for body math. When we're saying, I need to gain weight, I need to lose weight, understanding that 3,500 calories is how you're going to make that change. So that means if your body normally needs, and we'll just use a nice round number like 2,000, if your body normally needs 2,000 calories for you to function on a daily basis, and you say, I want to gain 1 pound this week. Well, if you need 2,000 calories in order to stay in stasis, that means you need to add 500 calories each day. So 500 calories times 7 days, 3,500 calories. So if you eat 2,500 calories when you need 2,000 for your normal body function, you have an excess of 3,500 over the course of a week. That means you're going to gain 1 pound. Same can be done in the opposite. If you need that 2,000 calories to sustain your body for the week and you want to lose a pound during the week, that means 500 calorie deficit during the day. You can cut out 500 calories each day in order to get that 3,500 over the course of the week. Ta-da, you reached your goal. You're going to gain or lose that weight based on the math that you're doing with those kilocalories. Now, that balance can be had a couple of different ways. When you exercise above and beyond what your normal activity level is, that means you're burning excess calories. So that needs to be a part of that math when you're trying to determine if you need those extra calories to gain, if you need to limit calories to lose, to stay into that right range where you're going to have control over that. Now, another piece of math here that I'm going to throw at you is really the standard is when we're talking about weight gain or weight loss. A healthy range that is going to be sustainable is losing 1 to 2 pounds per week or gaining 1 to 2 pounds per week. I know everybody wants to see those huge losses quicker or those huge gains quicker, but I'm telling you 1 to 2 pounds is really the magic number to make it a sustainable gain or loss. I know in things like combat sports where there are weight classes, you see people trying to lose 10, even more pounds in a week, and honestly, you can't do it like actually losing body fat, adipose tissue, things like that during a week. It's tough for you to burn through that much, but you can dehydrate yourself, which is a very unhealthy thing to do, and there have been restrictions put in place to limit that, even though it still happens. I wrestled myself in high school. I worked with college wrestling teams. I've worked with Olympic wrestlers. They still dehydrate in order to get to those things. It happens in other sports as well. Combat sports like boxing, jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts of many different types, where there are those weight classes, and people still do it in an unhealthy manner, even though we're trying to maintain that with hydration. But that dehydration can be so incredibly dangerous. But I digress. Not here to talk about dehydration specifically, although that is a very important part of sports nutrition for you to consider. But I want you to understand that specific math. So 3,500 calories is 1 pound. 1 to 2 pounds a week gain, 1 to 2 pounds a week loss. Those are your magic numbers, parameters that you want to stay inside of. All right. So enough on that. Just an overview again for this week. We're going to have our discussion over sports and nutrition. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, what's the importance of good nutrition in a sports medicine environment, in an athlete performance environment? And then your quiz over Chapter 5 here. That's everything for this week. I'm going to give you a heads up here. So I was looking forward a few weeks. In week number 7, so 3 weeks from now, I want you to keep this on your radar. We're going to be having our first exam. So our exams are going to work very similar to how the quiz is. We're not going to have a discussion that week. It's just going to be focused on the exam, and it's going to be cumulative of everything up to that point in the semester. So I want you to be prepared for that. It's going to take some extra time. I want you to spend the time going through your material to make sure you can do very well on that exam. All right, I think that's everything I have for you this week. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, I'll just wish you the best this week, and we'll see you again next time.